Hello and welcome to a quick video that I'm going to make about mastering what I like to call P.I.E. It is an acronym. I made it up myself, but it does not have anything to do with food. P.I.E. is actually three things that really helped me have my first really big breakthrough in network marketing. If this is the first video that you're watching of me, let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is John Abbas. I am the founder and CEO of NemoPro.com, where we actually make planners, day planners, week planners, but we build them just for the network marketing industry. I've been in the industry for 10 years. First 2 years were a complete disaster, as you'll hear in this training. The last 8, I made great money. I broke 6 figures my third year, and I've continued to grow it since. And it's just been a huge journey. I have a lot of love for this industry and giving back and supporting people in the industry. And that's really why I wanted to make this video. My first 2 years, I actually worked the business. I put time and energy into my network marketing business, but I never made any money. I made about $100 in my first 2 years. And, a lot of it was just because I never had a really great mentor. The lady that ended up getting me involved in the industry was already very successful. And she was already traveling the world with her family. And so, I could barely get a hold of her. And so I really, I had to teach myself. I followed other mentors, sidelines, and other organizations, industry leaders, and that's how I learned. But, the first 2 years were very, very, very difficult. And it was at a time where I really needed to make money. But the reason I never gave up on the industry was just because, I believed it was possible. I saw average people doing amazing things, making great money. And, I knew that if they could do it and there wasn't some super special talent or ability that they possessed, that I could do it as well. I just needed some information that maybe they had that I didn't have. And that's what I want to share with you in this video tonight, because, the title of this is Mastering P.I.E, but this really is the first breakthrough that I ever had. My first 2 years I made no money, but my third year I broke 6 figures in my network marketing business. And, people would always ask me, and they used to ask me all the time, like, what was the thing that you figured out, that you learned? And, it wasn't anything magical, but there were 3 things that once I understood how to implement them, made a huge difference in my income. And that's what P.I.E is all about. So P.I.E stands for, the P is piquing interest, learning how to pique someone's interest properly, how to get them interested and curious to want to see a presentation. Number 2 is how to invite people correctly. A lot of times people invite, but they do it completely wrong. And then number 3 is edification. That's the E. Learning how to edify a leader, an upline, a sideline, anybody the right way. So the first thing that I want to talk about is just piquing interest. And, I want you all to understand in this video that my goal is not to give you a lot of training as far as like systems, because I believe that if you're in a great company, they already have great systems. They already have great training. The goal of every video that I ever create, whether it's this one or any other one, is just to give you the philosophy behind the basic things that you need to know to be able to build a great business in the industry of network marketing. And that's it. It's just, I believe if you understand the philosophy and the psychology behind what you do, that you can follow any system and you will still get great results. It's just like, following a script. All scripts work if you have the right posture, if you have the right attitude, if you have the right excitement and urgency. But on the flip side, no script will work if you don't have the right attitude or posture or urgency. So if you get the philosophy right, the system becomes very, very, very simple, regardless of what company you're in and regardless of what system. So let's talk about the P, piquing interest. And I share P.I.E because I was so bad at this. Piquing interest was something that took me forever to learn how to do. As simple of a skill as it is, it took me forever to learn how to do it. And so if you're writing down or you're taking notes, I want to teach you how to pique people's interest in a way to where people are really interested and they're curious and they're excited to learn about your opportunity. And if you think about what most people do, what I did is when I would try to pique interest, either I would talk too much, I would explain the business. I would do too much hyping it up or exaggerating. And, that turned a lot of people off. And I didn't know that for a very, very, very long time. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write down piquing interest, P-I-Q-U-I-N-G, interest. And then in parentheses, I want you to write down movie trailer, because that's what piquing interest is. Your goal is to give people a movie trailer, and I want you to think about this, and I want you to write in bold letters somewhere on your paper. There's two things I want you to write down. Number one, amateurs explain the business and professionals just peak. Amateurs explain, professionals peak. And the second thing I want you to write down is peak does not mean pitch. It's very different. So what I mean by movie trailer is I want you to think about your favorite movie, and I want you to think about a lot of the movie trailers that you've watched. Think about what the purpose is. A lot of people don't realize because it's 1 or 2 minutes, but there's a lot of money that goes into the psychology behind a movie trailer because they have to get it right. If they don't get the movie trailer right, the movie literally could fail. The movie trailer is designed to do a couple of very simple things. Number one, it's just designed to get you interested and curious enough to want to go watch the movie. But what would happen if the movie trailer explained too much of the movie? Well, you wouldn't want to go watch it. What happens if the movie trailer highlights the boring parts of the movie? You would think the movie is stupid. So if you really think about it, a movie trailer is designed to give you just enough information for you to be interested and curious to want to go watch the movie. And that's exactly what you're doing for your network marketing business. You're giving them just enough information for them to be curious and interested to want to see a presentation, whether it's an event, whether it's an in-person meeting, whether it's a webinar, regardless of what the presentation is, your goal is just to pique their interest. So how do you do it? This is a huge mistake that a lot of people make. And I was one of those people for a very, very long time until I had a great mentor in my 3rd year in my business that corrected a lot of the mistakes that I was making. And the first thing that he taught me was how to pique people the right way. And this is what he taught me to do. He said there's a few ways that you can pique people's interest to get them really curious. He's like, the first thing that you got to remember when you're wanting to pique people's interest is the more that you know about that person, the easier it is to pique their interest. He's like, the more you know about the great qualities about them, or the more you know about their situation, the more you know about what's going on in their life or their strengths, or, just things like that, the easier it is to pique their interest, because that's ammo. And he said, when I pique people's interest, there's 2 things that I always ask myself before I call or text anyone. Number 1, what are the great qualities about them? And number 2, do I know anything about their situation that I can offer my opportunity in a way where it will come off as a solution to their problems? So what do I mean by that? So I want you to think about it this way. So people in general hate to be sold. They hate to be pitched. But everybody is looking for solutions to their problems, and everybody loves to feel good. Everybody loves to be complimented. Everybody loves when somebody pays attention to their great qualities or points them out. And so what he taught me was, he said, when I reach out to someone, I just think of those 2 things. What are their great qualities, or what is their situation? And he would say things like this. I don't want you to this is just an example. He would reach out to people, and it worked for me. I've done it for years. And I can honestly tell you, anytime I want to get someone to a presentation, it's pretty simple, because I know how to reach out to them and I have the psychology right. I'll reach out to them and I'll just be like, hey, James, it's John. Listen, I'm launching something and I'm super excited about it. And to be honest with you, I'm reaching out to you because, out of everybody that I know, you have the most integrity. People, just really respect your opinion. You have a great work ethic, and, just everybody loves to be around you. And that's why out of everybody that I wanted to actually have take a look at this, you're the first person that I thought of just because of those qualities. See, guys, when you take a minute and you make people feel special, it's almost like they feel honored to take a look at your presentation. But if you just call someone or you text someone and you're just pitching them right out of the gate, they don't love that, and that's a mistake that I made for 2 years. I would reach out to people and just be like, hey, I'm launching this opportunity. I thought you might be great at it. You should take a look. And I would just get shut down. But when I started taking the time to compliment people, when I started taking the time to be genuine in the feedback that I was giving people, my results literally went through the roof. Now, the second way you can do it is you can point out a situation. So, let's say that they need extra money, or let's say that they have kids in college, or let's say that they're trying to save up for an engagement ring. A problem that they have. It's very easy to peak by packaging your opportunity as a solution. Hey, James, it's John. Listen, I just wanted to reach out because I'm launching something. And, I know when we were speaking the other day, you were trying to save up money so you can get an engagement ring for Jessica. And, I thought this might be something that could literally help you, put, more money together faster to be able to get that engagement ring. And so, I'm having a private webinar tomorrow night. And I'm only inviting just a small group of people, and I really would like for you to come on and check this out because I think this might be something that could really help you get that wedding ring or engagement ring a lot faster. See, when you come at someone like you have a solution to a problem that they have, it's amazing how much more open-minded they become. It's not rocket science. It's just always remember, people hate to be pitched, people hate to be sold, but everybody loves solutions to their problems, and everybody loves to feel good or special or for someone to take notice of the great qualities. And if you point those out before you invite them, you will have a lot better result. I promise you this. This made all the difference for me, but you have to be genuine. When I would reach out to people, I wouldn't just make things up. I would really, really take the time to think about what are the great qualities. If I reached out to someone, I was honest. Hey, James, it's John. Listen, I'm launching something. I'm very excited about it. It's an online business. And, I wanted to reach out just to a few people, you specifically, because out of everybody I know, I can't think of 5 people that just are better with people, that have a better personality. You're so outgoing. Everybody loves you. Everybody loves hanging out with you. And that's why out of everybody that I wanted to show this to, I wanted to show this to you first. See, that's piquing interest. By making people feel special. People do not like to be pitched. That's the first thing I wanted to cover with you guys tonight. So, now you understand a little bit more about piquing interest. There's a second way to pique someone's interest too. And this is a more bold way to do it. I remember about 5 years ago, I got involved with, a network marketing company. And, I didn't follow that formula. I was super excited. I had been in the industry long enough to have some posture and a little bit of influence. And so, the way that I piqued people's interest was just making really bold statements. And that's another way that you can do it. You can reach out to people and you're just super excited. You have a lot of urgency. I remember reaching out, this is years ago, but I would reach out and be like, James, listen. I'm launching something, you have to take a look at this. I've never seen anything like this. We're having a private webinar tomorrow. Whatever you're doing, unless it's a wedding or a funeral, I need you to be on there to check this out. And not everybody can do that. That's why I'm not spending a lot of time on this, but it is an option. If you have an A-type personality or you're a shark or a dolphin or outgoing, this strategy works because, again, when you're excited, people become curious. When you're super excited, people become very curious. And so you can keep it really short and sweet, and you can just use powerful statements with posture, but with a lot of excitement and urgency, and that will work as well for peaking. So that's step 1. That's mastering the peak. Just remember, the best way to pique someone's interest, give them a movie trailer, be excited, have some urgency, but even if you don't have that kind of personality type, you can never go wrong with complimenting people and packaging your peak as a solution to a problem that that they have. Well, after you've piqued their interest, obviously the whole reason you peak is so that you can invite them to see a presentation, but there's a lot of psychology around inviting too. And this is something that really messed me up because I cannot tell you my first 2 years how many people I would invite to webinars and events, and it's just people didn't show up. I would have 5 or 8 or 9 confirmations and like nobody would show up or one person would show up. And, I would just sit there and listen to this training and they're just like, well, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. But, deep down in the back of my head, I was like, man, there has to be more to it than it's just a numbers game. Like my numbers suck on running through a lot of numbers, but I might recruit somebody into the business and maybe they don't know a million people. And if like they're inviting 100 people or 10 or 20 people and nobody shows up, they're going to really struggle. And that's when I really, really sat down and had a great conversation with a mentor of mine. And he reminded me of something that I learned almost 11 years ago when I was promoting nightclubs. And so the second thing is inviting. How do you invite people in a way where they don't just show up to a presentation, but they want to be there? A lot of times I teach, my team, sales is how do I make them do something? Marketing is more how do I make them want to do something? Sales is how do I make them buy? How do I close them? How do I get them to show up to a presentation? Marketing is more like how do I get them to want to see a presentation? How do I make them want to buy? How do I make them want to see this? And so that's why inviting is a very crucial skill. And so in parentheses next to inviting, I want you to write down, you must learn how to make things exclusive. And I want to tell you a quick story, and we're going to get right into the rest of this. My goal is to be done in maybe 5-6 minutes here. I'll never forget when I first moved to Las Vegas, the first job that I ever got. I was straight out of the military. I moved to Las Vegas. This is before I opened up my first real business, which is a restaurant. I got a job being a promoter for a nightclub. And, it was really crazy because it was very cutthroat, like a club and the big nightclubs anyway, they would hire you and they would give you like a really crappy night, like a Wednesday. And if you didn't bring enough people, they would fire you. I cannot tell you how many people got a job and got fired in like 24 hours. But if you could bring a lot of people to the club, you can make really good money. You could make $2 or $3 for every person that came. So if you could bring 100 or 200 people, you could make several $100s in one night. So it was very lucrative, but it was also very, very, very cutthroat. And, I'll never forget, I'd first moved to Las Vegas. I got a job as a VIP host. I was okay, but I wasn't really, really great. And there was this gentleman that everybody talked about, and his name was Tony. And, he was like a legend in Las Vegas. I can't tell you how many times I heard his name. But, at the end of the day, if there was a nightclub that opened, like a big nightclub with a super popular DJ, and they wanted thousands of people there and thousands of people in line that would never even probably be able to get into the club, Tony is who they called. Tony could pack out a nightclub like nobody else. And it was just amazing. One day, one of my good friends was a bartender at this new club that was opening up. And she called me and she's like, hey, John, listen, I've got a free table with a complimentary bottle of alcohol. You should come out and just hang out. It's celebrating this new nightclub that's opening up. And she's like, oh, by the way, Tony's promoting the nightclub. He'll be there. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to meet this guy. Like, he's literally a legend. I keep hearing about him and I want to learn like the way of the Jedi. And so, I go and it literally was mind blowing. I get to the casino and I've never in my life seen a line that long. I mean, there was thousands of people in line. And I get into the club. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait in line, but I get into the club and there's thousands of people there. It was so packed. It was ridiculous. And I'm just like, man, what does this guy do? In my mind, I'm like, man, he must look like Brad Pitt. He must know every like super gorgeous female on the planet for him to be able to do this. And so I'm sitting at my table and about an hour or 2 hours go by and, my good friend, she's like, she's like, hey, that's Tony. That's his table over there. She's like, here, let me go introduce you. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait. And she takes me over there. And when I first see him, I'm shocked because it's just not who I thought it was going to be. Instead of this Brad Pitt, chiseled, six-pack, ripped person that I was expecting, it was this short, fat, mid-40s guy that was balding from the Philippines. And, it was just, and I'm not trying to stereotype, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. But that conversation, it literally changed my life. You know, we sat down and we had a couple of drinks, and I just remember, like, clear as day, I asked him, I was just like, man, how do you do it? Like, how can you get this many people to show up? And this is what he said to me. He said, John, he's like, I learned a long time ago how to make everything exclusive. He's like, if you look at what most people do when they're promoting a nightclub, they're begging. They're all doing the same thing. They're like, hey, there's this nightclub opening up. They have crazy drink specials. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be so fun. You got to come check it out. You know, they're selling, and there's nothing attractive about that. He's like, but think about things that are exclusive. He's like, think about the Oscars, the Grammys, the Emmy Awards. You know, think about he's like, you know, if you think about exclusive events, like the Oscars, they're not begging people to come. People are begging them to get in. Why? Because they're exclusive events. They're scarce. They're private. Think about diamonds, gold. What makes them valuable? They're scarce. When something is rare, when something is scarce, when something is exclusive, it becomes valuable. And he said, that's all that I do. He's like, you know, when a nightclub is going to open up, what I do is I start off with an ultra VIP list, and I'll reach out to a small group of people. And this is what I'll say to them. It's just like, hey, listen, there's a new nightclub opening up. I'm not even allowed to give any details. I can't give you the name. I can't give you the DJs that are coming in, but it's going to be an insane event. And I'm putting a small list together. I need to know if you're in or out. I can only put 25 people on this list, and I need to know that if you're going to come, that you're going to be there. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And they're like, can I bring anybody? And he's like, absolutely not. Now, of course, he wants them to bring people, but he doesn't let them do it. He pulls the takeaway from them. He's like, look, absolutely not. If something changes, I will let you know, but I can only have you there. Well, obviously, nobody wants to go to a club by themselves. So he's like, what ends up happening is a few days later, people will start reaching out to him. They're like, hey, listen, if I give you like 20 or 50 bucks or $100, can I bring a couple of friends? And he's like, I'll tell you what, I'll let you bring 5 friends, but if I don't have their names and their numbers in the next 5 minutes, they're not getting in. And guess what they do? When you make something scarce, they want to do it. And he's like, what happens is I start building this buzz, and this buzz starts to build. And people want to be a part of it when people realize that other people are going to come. And he's like, it's this cascading effect. And, you know, obviously network marketing is not a nightclub, but the philosophy is the same. You know, how can you make whatever you're inviting people to an exclusive event? How can you make your webinar or your event exclusive? You know, I don't want to give you a training, but here's some of the things that I used to do that literally exploded my numbers. Because again, in network marketing, we know if you get more people in front of the information, you're going to have more distributors, more customers. You know, it's all logical and all flows together. If you get more people in front of the information the right way, then you're going to have a lot more success. And we all know this. And if you should know this, even if you're new, you know, it's common sense. But you know, the thing is, you know, the way that I used to do it is I started shifting my language. You know, an event and an exclusive event is the exact same thing, just with small tweaks in your language. You know, I started inviting people a lot differently. Instead of saying, hey, there's just going to be this unbelievable event. You got to come check it out. There's going to be these great guest speakers. It's going to be a fun time. You're going to learn about money. I started thinking about it like the Oscars. You know, I started reaching out to people and just like, hey, what are you doing Thursday night at 7 o'clock? I'm hosting a super private webinar. I'm only inviting a small group of people. I want you specifically to be on this webinar just because, like, I know that you have a great work ethic and you have a lot of integrity. And, you know, out of everybody that I want to see this, I want you to be on specifically. Can I count you in for 20 minutes Thursday night at 7 o'clock? I'm not just inviting everybody to this exclusive event. When people think that it's private and that not everybody's able to be on there, guess what? People want to be a part of it. You know, and you don't have to do or use the language that I did, but you need to find ways to make whatever you are inviting someone to exclusive, private, scarce, rare, because psychologically, this is what people want. Why do you think people spend the night outside of the Apple store to get the iPhone when they could just walk in 3-4 days later? People want to be first. People want to know about things before everybody else. People want it. Like, look at any marketing and you will see that. So that's the key to inviting, is just understanding how to make things exclusive, whatever it is. Now, the third and final piece of the puzzle is edification. And edification is, in my personal opinion, the most important out of the other two. It's the most important of the three, because if you get this one right, not only can you have a lot of success being very new in the industry, but you're taking a lot of the work off of yourself. And this is something that my mentor taught me a long time ago in this industry. He said to me, John, I will only be as effective as your edification. He's like, the better your edification, the better and more effective I'll be for your business. And I never forgot that. And this is an example, an analogy that he gave me. He said to me, John, he's like, the reason edification is important, he's like, I like to call it the triangle of trust. You got to take the business off of you. And I was like, well, what do you mean by like take the business off of you? This is what he said to me. He said, John, he's like, I like to call it the triangle of trust. There's a triangle. At the top is you. On the left-hand side is your prospect. And on the right-hand side is the expert. Between you and your prospect is trust. You and your prospect. Between you and the expert is trust. But between the expert and your prospect is credibility. He said to me, John, you are the trust, but you're not the credibility. And he's like, think about it. He's like, even if we were best friends in the world, and I'm a superstar lawyer, like imagine that me and you were best friends, and I'm a super successful lawyer. Like I make millions of dollars a year. I win every case. I'm crushing it. One day you get sick and we're best friends, and I start giving you medical advice. He's like, are you going to listen to my medical advice? I was like, well, no. He's like, why? I'm successful. I'm a lawyer. I'm making things happen. And I was like, well, because you're not a doctor. And he's like, exactly. He's like, why try to be something that I'm not when I could just pass you to the expert? He's like, well, imagine we're best friends. I'm a lawyer. You get sick one day, and instead of trying to be a doctor, I reach out to you and I'm like, listen, you have to call Dr. Jeff. Out of every doctor that I've ever met, he's the best doctor I've ever seen. My whole family goes to him. I would never use anybody else. He's super knowledgeable. He takes care of the family. You got to go see Dr. Jeff. He's like, would you go see that doctor? And I was like, absolutely. He's like, why? He's like, I was like, well, because you spoke highly of him. He's like, exactly. He's like, it's so much easier to pass to an expert than it is to try to be something that you're not and pretend. He's like, most people in network marketing, they do so much more than they have to. They can make their lives so much easier if they can just edify people properly. And when you're edifying a leader, the best way that I've learned to do that is just to tell a story. You don't have to exaggerate. You don't have to say things that aren't true. You don't have to have a millionaire as your expert. We can all find ways to edify anybody. Even when I was making really, really great money in my network marketing business, when I was killing at the top of my game, if I would ever meet people out in town, I would never be the expert. I would still edify somebody in my downline. I would edify somebody that's only been in for a month, and I would edify them so well that they would be honored to meet that person, even though I was the leader. And so it's so important that you edify. And the best way to do it is just to tell a story. If I'm, edifying, my good friend Diane, Diane has been in for a month, and let's say she's built a team of a couple of people. It's very simple to do. You just highlight great qualities in a story. Just like, oh my goodness, I have to introduce you to a good friend of mine. Her name is Diane, and she's just a superstar in this business. You know, she's making things happen. She's a full-time mom. She has family. She has career. But with all of these obligations in the cracks of her schedule, she's been able to build a business online. She's having success. She's mentoring, coaching other people to do it. And I'm just so honored that I have the opportunity to work with her, and she's helping me achieve my goals and get where I want to be. And it's just been an absolute privilege. And, you know, I want to introduce you to her because I want you, number one, to hear her story. But number two, I want her to share with you a little bit about the vision of what's about to happen in the next 6 to 12 months with what we're working on. You know, she's super busy and I don't even know if I can get her, but if I can get a few minutes of her time for a call or maybe a coffee meet, make sure that you clear your time, because it's not every day that you get to meet someone that helps other people get to where they've gotten in life. And so, you know, that's just a basic example of edification. You know, but the goal of edification is just tell a story. Tell a story, highlight the great qualities. You know, I hope this training helped you guys a little bit, because, you know, this is one of the things that I always teach people, you know, in network marketing is, you know, network marketing is like learning a language, right? You know, in my personal opinion, there's not a million things that you have to learn to be successful in this industry. If you really think about it, you know, inviting, presenting, closing, follow-up, launching a new person, and developing leaders. You know, if you learn those things, it's about 6 things, half a dozen things. You know, it's just like Jim Rohn said, you know, about a half a dozen things makes all of the difference in anything that you ever do. You don't need to learn a million skills in network marketing. It's about a half a dozen things and you can be very successful. But the reason that so many people get frustrated is because it's like learning a language. You know, when you're learning a new language, Spanish or French, you know, I remember learning French. The first thing that I did was I learned all of the words. I learned all of the words and you know, I got to a point where I knew almost every word and what it meant. But the crazy thing is even though I knew every word and I knew what it meant, I still could not speak the language. It was very frustrating because even though I knew all of the words, I didn't know how to make them flow together in a way where I could speak the language. And that took time. And it's the same thing in network marketing. Maybe you understand how to invite, maybe you're learning how to do a presentation, or maybe you have an upline that can do a presentation for you, or you're great at closing. You know, just because you learn the skills, give yourself time to learn how it flows together as a language. Because when you get that, you will change your life in this industry. And it's a very powerful thing, because I don't know another industry personally, really don't, where you don't have to spend more money to make more money. You know, whether you're making $1,000 a month or $100,000 a month, you know, it's all profit minus taxes and some travel and things like that, or maybe a little bit that you invest into your business. But if you look at traditional business owners, they all have to spend way more to make more. You know, when I owned a restaurant, if I wanted to make more money, I had to open up another restaurant. More time, more money. I had to spend more to make more. That's why this is such a powerful industry, and it's worth learning the skills. And I just wanted to share with you 3 things that made all the difference for me. Now, this isn't my big breakthrough. I'm going to cover that in a later video. But this was my first breakthrough that took me from making nothing, $100 my first 2 years, to making 6 figures. Everything clicked for me in my 3rd year, and I learned how to master P.I.E. I could pique interest like nobody's business. I could invite by making things exclusive, and I knew how to edify my leaders so well that they were intimidated to talk to them. And I don't mean scared. I never exaggerated, but I knew how to highlight qualities. And it's not hard to learn these things. If you really apply yourself, 30 days or less, you can master P.I.E. You can learn how to pique interest like crazy. It's fun. You can learn how to invite by making things exclusive, and you can edify your leader in a way where people are honored to meet that person. Sideline, and your leader can be anybody. Don't think if you don't have an upline that's super successful, you can't have success. No, guys, you can edify anybody. You can edify a buddy of yours, a sideline, anybody in another organization. Make it a game. You can edify anybody else, but that made all the difference for me, and I hope that this video made a little bit of difference for you. You know, like I said, you know, I own Nemo Pro, but my goal is to give away more free, you know, just training and advice than most people charge for, you know, and that's what I'm super excited, is just to share the knowledge that I've learned. I don't know it all. I haven't made multi-millions of dollars in network marketing, but I have made a lot of money and I've supported myself for almost 10 years in this industry, and it's been able to allow me to invest in many other businesses. And I'm just excited to share the limited amount of knowledge that I do have with people that are trying to make things happen and trying to build a future for themselves, because at the end of the day, this industry is a great one and it's changed lots of lives. And we live in a time right now where the industry is only going to get bigger. If you really think about it, we're in an age right now where network marketing is exploding because it was the perfect business all along to take advantage of the explosion in social media and the internet. And, it's crazy. And so we're super excited, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope that, you got something out of this. If you did, please feel free to email, comment, and just give some honest feedback. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a wonderful day.